Hello, hello. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the red pill versus the blue pill. This is Dr. Delon Canterbury. I'm the founder of Geriatrics as well as the Deprescribing Accelerator. Hope you guys are doing well. Life is great. Life is good. Had an amazing time this past week. We were at 3 conferences, one virtual, one in DC for, that was the National Committee on Quality Assurance. That was earlier last week, which was mind-blowing. And if you didn't hear the rundown I gave on that, talking about the new Deprescribing HEDIS measures that will come out for 2023, give that a look. We went live last week and shared some of the updates that are in the pipeline for Deprescribing. And to cap it off, we ended the week in San Antonio. So we were in San Antonio for the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists convention, which was so good, met so many brilliant minds in the geriatric pharmacy world, people I've looked up to, and honestly, it was just good to finally connect and see what's in the future for geriatric pharmacy as well as, of course, Deprescribing. So welcome back to our series, The Red Pill versus the Blue Pill, sponsored by Geriatrics. We focus on unleashing our Deprescribing potential, our abilities to put this in the communities that most need it. And of course, we're looking to change the way we shift our medication mindset, because I think you and I both know we are just overprescribed left and right. We're overmedicated. And now our system's starting to change and shift more to value-based care and address the elephant in the room, which are a growing population of seniors with less and less and less care providers. So this leads and spells the perfect opportunity for geriatric trained clinicians, NPs, pharmacists to really take the reins and start owning our brilliance, but more importantly, start leveraging Deprescribing. So welcome back. Hey, Cheryl, hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the love and support as always. But yeah, today I want to highlight something I've had to quickly learn, is that, Deprescribing doesn't just start with, it doesn't just end with the med review, right? And yeah, you're like, well, what do you think? Oh, of course you have to have a med review. Yeah, you got to have a medication review for sure. But it's way more than that. And when I start, even in some instances, making recommendations for med lists that I see, rarely, but there are times I even get pushback from the care provider, like the caregiver, who knows that their mom is on 30 meds, but they're like, well, they've been on that because of this. And it's like, they're so used to thinking that they have to be on it. It's like I'm finding myself re-educating the patient and the caregiver, and the caregiver is more resistant to the change. It's rare. It's really rare, because they're usually the ones who come to me. But there was an instance where I've had to politely push back and show that, yeah, I get that, but having an anxious stomach isn't an indication for omeprazole 40 milligrams twice a day, and you have osteoporosis in that patient, which I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago in our past live segment. But truthfully, again, there's this whole re-education that has to take place. And I think that's the first step of Deprescribing, is building trust. Like, you have to be a trusted communicator. You have to come from a place of concern and love, and you have to come from a place of empathy in order to even have a dialogue, right? Because I mean, I'm not going to just go to your mom and say, stop all this, and I don't know you, I don't have any stake in it. I'm going to just, that doesn't make sense. It seems disingenuous. And it made me realize that you got to scale it back a bit. We got to get down to what are the goals of care for our patient, right? I love to use the 4Ms model, which talks about basically language appropriate model as a mnemonic for age friendly communication. So in the 4M model, they talk about what matters most to the patient. How are we preserving your mind or mentation? How are we maintaining mobility? And then how are we discussing what matters? And then some people talk about the medications as the 5M, but I kind of wrap medications into all of them. So I use that approach when I talk to my clients, and again, get to their core why. Like, what do you want out of your life? What do you want out of the golden ages? What do you want to experience? And I use that as my basis on my rationale on how I approach potentially deprescribing or addressing lifestyle changes we can make, integrative changes we can make now with nutrition, diet, of course. But again, looking for the low-hanging fruit, things that the patients don't even need anymore. So we got to have a med review, of course, but it's way more than that. And I want to discuss a patient that I met from giving a recent caregiver conference a couple of weeks ago. And she was suffering from some anxiety. She wasn't on too many meds, a 61-year-old woman. And she would have panic attacks. She just was worrying and couldn't sleep at night. And going over her meds, it really wasn't many. It was like a blood pressure med and hydroxyzine, which in our world we use on occasion, for acute anxiety when there may be flares. It's more like as needed, it's not like it's maintenance therapy. And so in getting to that, I started talking about, her sleep hygiene. I started talking about her mindset, like what's her day-to-day like. And she just started telling me, she's been having chronic anxiety for a minute. She's only sleeping 3 or 4 hours at night. She generally just is worried about everything, which isn't great. And then her just worrying about things, I started unveiling more and more about some of the root issues. And in talking about just her livelihood, I'm like, okay, you're anxious, you're not getting sleep. I talked about sleep hygiene. I talked about how there's an increased risk of harm if you're not getting, at least 7 hours of sleep to 9, and how there are other issues that can come up later if you don't hit this now. But how are we de-stressing? How are we using mindfulness? How are you, consulting with your doctor? What are they saying about this? The doctor is saying, well, I'm treating you for anxiety. Here's the hydroxyzine. But it's, as if you're a pharmacist, that's not a mainstay therapy, for anxiety. But I will say it has helped with her panic attacks, but she is still at baseline very much anxious and depressed. And so we get to talking, and then she finally starts talking about her house. And then it became deeper than just, the anxiety. It actually became a concern about her current living arrangements. Okay. So she's, in public housing, she's in HUD, and, is a dual eligible patient. She's on Medicare and Medicaid. And we started unveiling that she has a deep-rooted anxiety due to this ongoing fear that someone keeps breaking into her house. Someone keeps coming into her house without any permission. And this was actually reported multiple times, not just from her to the housing authority, but amongst other residents within the housing complex. So the feedback I got was essentially the housing complex kind of just ignored the complaints and kind of swept it under the rug. But it seemed to be an ongoing issue. And in fact, as people were moving out, they were mentioning and telling her, this is what's happened to me. This is why I'm moving out. And it got to a point where this woman is so anxious about just leaving the house that she's fearful that someone's, who, mind you, is working in their facility, it's someone who has access to all the homes, is just going in and maybe messing around with her stuff, or who knows. That's her concern. Her fear is someone is watching her. And that's of course going to cause anxiety for me or for anyone who's in that situation. So it got to a point where people have tried to complain into corporate, and again, nothing has resolved from it. So I'm over here thinking, all right, what was a simple hydroxyzine and maybe an SSRI conversation, and how we can talk about anxiety, and of course leading into lifestyle management, stressing, deep breathing, etc., finding ways to get her, meditating, prayer. She found joy in prayer and having quiet time and deep breathing, and those have actually helped her. So I try to re-encourage her to use those tools while she's dealing with this. But it got so bad for her that she had set up a recorder in her own home, and just to see if anyone's there. And she set up an audio recording and literally had someone on tape. It wasn't video, which is the problem, but it was an audio recording going into their home while they were away. Okay. So legit fear confirmed via recording, but because the recording was only audio, the police can't act on that because it's not considered enough evidence to say someone's been in your home without you knowing. So now there's this cycle of feeling helpless and not being listened to, and having this housing situation truly be the core root of the anxiety, which is leading to this sleeplessness, which is leading to this stress throughout her day, and worry about, am I even safe in my own home? I mean, I don't know about you. If someone has, cameras in my home and I find out there's a little teddy bear 2 years later with a red eye, and I'm seeing, old footage, then yeah, I'm going to be super anxious. I'm going to be super stressed out. And that to me is alarming, that one, it's falling on deaf ears. And so what I thought would be a potential kind of just conversation about medications and how I can support turned into trying to tackle this housing issue and advocate in a way that clearly we as pharmacists don't traditionally think we would have to do. So now I'm looking to see what elder care rights, what ombudsman or what social services can get involved, because she has been feeling helpless and depressed and extremely anxious and doesn't, really have the support that she needs. So this ended up turning into an investigation into social services, looking into the county ombudsman for elder care, referring her to talk to senior services in her zip code to see if they can have any local legal action that they can take, because I do envision this probably turning into a class action lawsuit. But better yet, it led to me learning more about her rights as being a Medicaid beneficiary. And I didn't really know that Medicaid beneficiaries had their own ombudsman or lawyer who can help with elder concern or elder abuse or elder rights or any infringement or discrimination upon those rights. And I ended up going down this rabbit hole of getting them a number, referring them. But I even started learning that there are organizations out there that help elderly patients in crisis with relocating when there is an issue, something like this, like privacy being invaded or a housing issue, of course. So I ended up giving her more resources on like what AARP has a fund for relocating, probably a wait list, but they have a fund to help people with relocating. They had like 2 other chapter organizations, can't even tell you the name off top, on that list that she can now call if they have a valuable case. If they have a valid case, they can at least try to help her because she's just trying to get out of that housing complex so that she can get back to her world, get back to her life. And so what, I thought may be a potential med review ended up going down this social need kind of rabbit hole. And really, it took just a little bit more of my time to learn this for myself, one, but two, know the rights that our elders have. And this ain't exactly the stuff you learn in an MTM, because the core issue here is her stress from her housing situation, right? So this is a holistic issue. This is if you don't have food security and home and shelter and safety, you're going to be chronically stressed. You're going to be chronically anxious. So it taught me, again, it reinforced, frankly, that we aren't just treating a cool medication list. We're not just doing a med review. It's so much deeper than this. It's like we're treating the whole person. And I'm by no means no social worker, but this is the level of power that I feel we have harnessed but aren't using every day in our line of work. And I know for sure I couldn't do this type of line of work when I was at Walgreens, when I was a pharmacy manager, when I was just hitting that keyboard 4 times to hit my verifications up, when I was also F1ing and F4ing and filling and having techs call out. I wasn't doing this type of service in that role. And it humbled me, one, to be appreciative of what I have. First of all, we're already rich as it is now. I say that every day. We're already rich now. We already have everything we need. But again, it shed light to what I truly envision deprescribing requires. It's not just looking at higher risk meds. It's, again, talking about having a trusted communicator, having empathy, having a holistic approach to care. It's again talking about food insecurities, social services, housing. It's talking about these social barriers and then social proponents, things that actually keep you out of harm's way with the right social network. It reinforced that what we do is bigger than just counting by fives and clocking in and doing a gradual dose reduction and just saying, no issues noted with a person's 20 lifts if you're in an LTC or a sniff. And again, that's the problem I'm seeing, is we are feeling so confined to this archaic role of what we can do for people, when all of this can be rolled into our general expertise of patient advocacy, of deprescribing advocacy, right? Because if I'm able to, again, get her to the social services, to get the right housing, to eventually move in with another person, there's a good chance she's not going to be needing that anxiety medicine anymore. And so I do firmly believe in integrative medicine. I do firmly believe in pharmacogenomics, nutrigenomics. I do believe in nutrition. And that's the importance, I feel, again, why deprescribing is way more than just the med list. Like, it's the start, but then we haven't even talked about reshifting this reactivity or reaction to just prescribe. Like the medication mindset, again, it's a system issue, but the future of geriatric care has to lean on deprescribing. It has to involve a pharmacist expertise in a team-based care model that includes social workers, behavioral health scientists, it includes providers, and it includes the patient and caregiver. And we know the patient is the CEO or the quarterback behind all of this. We already drug experts for sure. So let's own that and show how we can actually save more money by deprescribing, which we already do. We do save money. We save time. We save energy. We save on labor costs. We save on preventable harm. If I and my one little self have kept someone out of a nursing home because of one med review, then I know thousands of you that are tuning in now who de-prescribe every day, but you're not getting paid for it, or at least to the amount surmountable or commiserate to your value, then I know we can have a movement in pharmacy. I know we are having a movement in pharmacy where we're thinking differently about our current day-to-day, and we're literally leveraging what we know and train for in a new light. And I think the new light, again, starts with service. It starts with how are you showing up in your communities, in your churches, in your homes, in your family members' lives, in your friends' lives. When I started this business, I was going straight to all of my friends and all of my family. And I was like, hey, I want to de-prescribe. I want to help your loved ones. You got any aunties and uncles who are on 2015 meds? Can I help? That's it. I literally started off my business doing that, and then it grew. I got referrals, and then I started going more into the community. Then I went bigger, and then I started going back to the community. I've been around the world a little bit with it. But what I'm finding every time I do this work is that, one, there are results. Two, half the time these people, patients and caregivers, aren't even educated on the meds point blank, period. Like, even if they ask a question at the pharmacy or the doctor said something once, there isn't a clear like why, or even a timeline, or even and then sometimes I agree. Sometimes it's on the patient to take that ownership as well. I'm not here to drag people to the water. Like, people need to take some ownership in their own health. And sometimes we are a little over dependent on prescribers or doctors and pharmacists to tell them what to do. So there needs to be the dual ownership of this issue, right? But when it comes to these med reviews, when it comes to these de-prescribing action plans I'm creating for patients, it all comes down to the patient's goals. It comes down to what's reasonable, what's going to be amenable for them, and what's going to be substantially impactful for our clinicians and pharmacists, so we can feel, again, fulfilled in what we were meant to do, and that's to serve and show people other ways. So I firmly believe that now is the time for us to take charge of our degrees that we've worked so hard for. I am done with the status quo of waiting for insurers to recognize the value that we have. I am done with waiting for a system that continuously leads to more harm for those disadvantaged and don't have access. I am so tired of social barriers being the end all be all in people's care. 80 to 90% of your care is your zip code. I'm so tired of access leading to all this compounded, well, this is why you're on these pills. This is why your blood pressure's up. This is why. And we're just reactively trying to like do away with the meds without seeing the full picture. And you can't do that in a sniff. You can't do that in an LTC. You can do your gradual dose reductions all day. You can do a med rec all day. But if you don't have a team-based buy-in or a culture of de-prescribing, or a culture of continuous education and the implementation of tools to help you better de-prescribe continuously, then we're not de-prescribing. And I know we're not, because the numbers tell me they're not. If I'm seeing a 21% increase in antipsychotic uses in nursing homes in the last decade, then yeah, you may be where you are today. You're maybe doing your right thing. And I'm not knocking people doing it. I know people are doing it, but we aren't doing it systemically. We're not doing it from both the prescriber and the pharmacist and the nurse and the social worker and the NP and the PA. We're not doing it holistically. And that is what de-prescribing is a holistic, team-based, systemic approach. because I could do a med review all day. I could do a pharmacogenomics consult all day. It falls on deaf ears if it isn't implemented for all, and it isn't implemented in a way that leads to the continuous reduction of harm. You know? And I don't think it's easy. I mean, I'm literally pushing against a health system that monetizes off and profits off of the refills on meds. So I understand that, absolutely. But that's not what people need. And that's why this is my calling. This is my mission, is to show that we can do this. We can do this together. And we can do it as a team, like, as I mean, an interdisciplinary team. And until deprescribing is taught in pharmacy schools and nursing schools and med schools, and as ongoing continuous training required for all accrediting bodies in this country, I am not going to stop talking about this. I am not going to stop talking about this, because this is bigger than me. This is what resonates and what I see in every pharmacist I meet, every nurse I meet, who tells me the same story over and over. Their loved one was on 20 meds. I advocated. I became a deprescribing advocate before we knew the term. And now they're doing better because they're on 4 meds. Or the patient was in hospice. They got him off all the meds. The patient's better. And now they're out of hospice. I am so tired of hearing that story. I hear it at every conference I go to, and I love that the patient got better, for sure. I'm just so tired. Why do we have to wait? Why do we have to wait until someone's knocking on death's door, or it's a serious situation, to now talk about deprescribing, where we can do it 10, 15 years before, so that when they're aging gracefully, they're not dealing with this issue still of falls, of chronic opioid use, of diversion, of losing their cognition. So this is why I created the red pill versus the blue pill. Because I believe we're in this healthcare matrix, and we're waking up. We're slowly waking up, and I want us to choose the red pill. Matrix is my favorite movie. If you didn't know that, it's my favorite movie of all time. And I'm just trying to be Morpheus a little bit. I'm trying to shake things up, give a little razzle dazzle. That's fine with me. I'm used to it. But this is where healthcare is going. We are shifting towards more value-based care services, and gone are the days where pharmacists are just attached to a pill bottle. Like, that's old pharmacy. The new pharmacy is on some different stuff. Okay. New pharmacy is selling services at a higher ticket and getting paid a higher ticket for that. New pharmacy is talking about 1099s and getting contracts with businesses. So you're doing what you love and getting paid for doing what you love. New pharmacy is using community service as a tool to advocate for more people, not just when you're there from 9 to 5. New pharmacy is using pharmacogenomics, nutrigenomics, integrative medicine, functional medicine, CCM, RPM, TOC. New pharmacy is looking at advanced care practices. So who better than consultant pharmacists and geriatric trained pharmacists to quarterback deprescribing? Oh, I know it's against your LTC's pill counts. I get that. I don't care. I get that. I don't care. We've been doing it for 30, 40 years, and people aren't getting better. Don't get me wrong. Again, I say it all the time. I am never anti-medicine. I am anti this medication mindset that we think is the end all be all of care. I love medicine. They have a role. They do what they do. I don't love it in 75-year-olds who are on 20 different meds and can barely manage them themselves. I hate it at that point. So I am challenging what we've been doing this whole time and just following these little rules and owning the greatness we have, getting paid for the value we provide, using really different, unique, integrative approaches to how we handle these med reviews. But there needs to be a lot of steps for deprescribing to happen. And I mean, holistically happen, right? We're going to have, clinical decision support tools. We're going to need like really cool tech so we can know the data behind high risk meds. We're going to have education from the patient to the provider to the pharmacist, because we kind of think we're doing MTMs that we're already deprescribing. No, an MTM is not deprescribing, okay? And I hate to break it to you, but it's not. That phone call you will do for 30 minutes is not a deprescribing action plan. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not. It's a checklist because it's not challenging, one, the diagnoses. We're just doing a list. We're not checking the actual whole person. And that's what's missing in our system. And again, I reiterate, this is why deprescribing is way more than a medication review. It's way more than that. It takes buy-in, trust, empathy, and a lot of it just takes so much more. But I love it. And that's the piece that I think our system is going towards, for sure. At least going to NCQA, the National Committee on Quality Assurance. I am seeing more of literature and measures that are going to be aligned to deprescribing. I'll reiterate for those who did not know, but in 2023, there's going to be a new HEDIS measure that looks at deprescribing for benzos. And they're looking for deprescribing in benzodiazepines for patients 67 years and older. And they're basically going to look from the year prior, I think the year July prior, up to the end of that following year. And they're going to track and see if there has been a 20% reduction in the dose of benzos being used for the patients. Now, of course, this means health systems will have to actually put on that metric and actually look at it and actually track it. And I can tell you, not everyone's really doing that. You still have to manually have them do that. However, that could still spell an opportunity for people who specialize in deprescribing to seamlessly integrate and sell your service. There's also another measure for deprescribing around insulin. And this will be for rapid or any insulin, actually, and for patients who are 67 and up, and they may have any recent ER visits related to low sugar or hypoglycemia. So what they're tracking will be, was there any initiation of insulin within the last 6 months of that patient being admitted into a hospital? And as you guys know, hospitals are expensive. ER bills are expensive. So they're looking to track that, which I think is a great step in the right direction. And they're also looking to track just hypoglycemic events and hospitalizations, period. So they're tracking that too. So we're going to be pushing for better management of our diabetic patients and hopefully not over medicating them to the point where they're not tanking out with low sugars. So that's going to mean, of course, opportunity for diabetic educators, instructors, getting patients more involved with timing when they eat and how they maybe dose themselves. But again, that's a great opportunity for those who might be in the continuous glucose monitoring world, right? So the HEDIS measures are getting there clearly, which is exciting. And I think healthcare is getting there. And I think we as pharmacists are also getting there too. I do have hope. I do have a lot of hope for what's coming down in the future. I'm seeing a lot of us are done with the old model, and we want to be the new deprescribing advocate. So I hope this resonated with a lot of you. Deprescribing is way more than just a med review. And I'm tired of us feeling so stuck and trapped and passionless and burned out. And I want us to just start getting our joy back, even if it hurts a little bit financially for the first year, or it's just a whole different frontier. And guess what? You're scared out your mind. I know. I get it. It's not easy. But the way things are going is our aging population is going to be kept at home. They're going to be incentivized to be kept at home as long as possible. And one way to do that is to get them off of high-risk medications that would put them in the hospital. And if you're able to say, Delon has kept this facility from having any more falls than last year, or has reduced falls by 20%, which we know we can quantify for hundreds of thousands of dollars in cost savings, then I believe damn sure you should get a percentage of the cost savings. I absolutely believe that's where things are going. And not just your hourly rate. I think you need to be paid substantial to the cost savings you have provided, because you're saving the health system money. We're doing the right thing for the patient, and we're improving quality of care. And I don't think what I'm saying is too far-fetched. I feel like we kind of do this every day in our own silos. So let's just do it nationally. Let's just do it with an insurance plan. Let's just do it together. Let's just do it all at once, and not just do it while we're at work. Let's do it as an ongoing, continuous project. So I'm excited. Absolutely. I am so excited. I am so humbled by the brilliance I met this past week at ASCP, at the NCQA conference as well. There's so many smart people who develop algorithms and tools and antipsychotic stewardship, and talked about, of course, dope sick, discussing the opioid epidemic, which they're going to be, by the way, tons more funding for opioid deprescribing in the future. So you're going to definitely want to perk your ears up to that. They're going to be way more grants for medication-assisted therapies, Narcan, naltrexone, Suboxone. That's going to be huge in terms of government funding. But truthfully, what I learned from the conference prior at NCQA is that we're not even doing that well now. There's a huge stigma for the opioid for medication-assisted therapy prescribing. In fact, there are some prescribers actually scared to touch writing for that, which to me is asinine. But it tells me that there's this baseline stigmatization that's hitting our vulnerable patients who just need help, Deprescribing is way more than a med review. It's a holistic body approach. Yes, there's integrative pieces, lifestyle, of course. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to serve, and we don't want people on all these meds, right? We never did. None of us ever did. It's just what we think is the only way. And we got to just teach people that there's another way. Simple and plain. We have to teach people there's another way. And it starts with treating the mind and the body and the spirit. It really does. My mission, again, is to put this mindset into as many doctors, nurses, pharmacists, because we're still not fully aware, primary care, adult daycare centers, AAAs, area agencies on aging, nursing homes, retirement communities. Because I think the community still doesn't know the value of a pharmacist. And that's okay. We're here to educate. We've been educating all of our lives. That's what we do for a living. So we can educate a little bit more. But more importantly, we got to educate our community. And that starts with community service. It starts with speaking about the problem. It starts with talking about why this issue, this systemic issue, is causing harm. I mean, you guys have access to the same PubMed articles I do. What I'm preaching isn't new. We've been doing the same thing for decades. It's literally ingrained into our professions, into our health system. Let's just veer off course just a little bit, do something a little different. Because if it's getting worse and we're paying more for this healthcare, then I don't want to be a part of it, man. I don't want to age gracefully here unless I'm balling and I don't have to worry about. And guess what? You're still going to hit barriers, even if you're rich in the aging population. So I'd rather retire somewhere else where they honestly look a little more holistically. But I don't think we're doing the best service for our seniors. I want to get more involved with the VA too. I want to learn more about their world. Federal laws are pretty cool and prescribing practices. And I absolutely love what they are doing. The VA created the Vione methodology. And if you don't know the Vione methodology, we actually teach that as a part of our Deprescribing accelerator. It's a mnemonic that's meant to basically kind of pre-screen every medicine the person's on. It looks at what meds are considered to be vital, what are important, what are optional, what's needed, like what's every indication, what's needed. And then E is every medication has an indication. And in using this model, they've on average deprescribed, I think, 2 meds per patient and have already saved the health system millions of dollars in cost savings. And you can just look up the Vione model. It's been out, I think, since 2017. And what started as a little bitty idea in little old Arkansas at a tertiary hospital as a part of their VA system ended up scaling nationally to, I think, over 300 facilities, and millions of dollars have been saved just within the VA alone. So if the VA can do that, we all can do that. We all can do that. We already do it. We do it in individual silos. Let's just do it all together. Let's just do it. Let's just do it and see what happens. So hope this was helpful. Got much love for you guys. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, for the comments and the engagement. Really happy and excited to see where our profession goes, where healthcare goes. And I'm excited for the quality of care we're going to start delivering. You know, that personalized care is needed. And it does start with treating the whole patient and talking about those social needs, those social barriers, but really talking about what do they want out of their care. Thank you guys so much. Got much love. Tune in next week. If you want to learn more about our Deprescribing Accelerator program, check out my bio, or the application page is in our comments. It's in our description. We're recruiting for our next cohort. This will be our 4th cohort. I'm excited. We're going to likely launch in February or March. I'm debating on what time I want to do it. Renee, thank you. She chose the red pill. I appreciate you, Renee. I will direct message you shortly, and we will hash out a time for us to talk further on how you can get involved with our program. But yes, she chose the red pill. I hope you all can choose the red pill. Do not stay asleep and just continue feeling passionless, burned out, numb, soulless. Just choose your joy, choose your happiness, do something different. I mean, frankly, you can use our program, but I want you to just do something different. Be happy for yourself. Like, go pick up a craft, go paint something, just go on a hike. Like, like get your mindset out of where you are currently and just do something different. Find your joy. Find that inner kid that you like. My inner kid was video games. Hey, Mark, thank you for choosing the red pill. I love it. I love it. I'm going to direct message you shortly. Melanie, thank you. Appreciate the warm words. Thank you for being our voice and champion for Deprescribing. You know it, and I love it. I appreciate you, Melanie, for tuning in. I am so passionate about this. Like, it's above me. I need us all to do it together, and I just appreciate the warm words. Seriously. Yeah. But I am excited. Seriously, I am excited because the writing's on the wall. I mean, we already have IT putting their hand into healthcare. We've got Amazon putting their hand into healthcare. We've got so many competing priorities in healthcare where the role of the pharmacist is just going to get automated. They're going to try to get rid of us because we're too expensive for their bottom line. And that's inevitable. There's no denying that. That's why they're piloting stores without pharmacists and just having someone remote verify. They've been doing it for ages, but you can't tell me that's not what's happening. So there'll be a time where we'll be obsolete in that stand-up role, and they're going to try to find other ways to really just pimp us out. So it's time for us to choose the red pill, do something different, get your passion back, get your joy back, and do what you love. All right. So y'all take care. I'll see y'all next week around the same time, 12 to 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday, we'll be doing the red pill versus blue pill. Again, speaking to the power of Deprescribing and what we all can do together to change our system. Y'all take care.